What is Dollar Gujarati?
How do Gujaratis do business?
What kind of businesses can you do in America?
How can you grow your business?
How do you get your first customer?
How can you raise funding?
When should you be frugal?
Can you start a business as an immigrant?
Why is sales important?
Where are all the investors?
Which is the correct model for your startup?
Find these answers and more in Season 2 of Dollar Gujarati.
Today's founders are a power couple. Forum Desai and Jinal Jhaveri came to America for a master's degree in computer science in 2001. Jinal worked for a few years as a software developer, while Forum worked as a manager at PwC, until they received their green cards through the EB1 category. They immediately switched gears in their life to start their first company, LogN, a digital services-based company. This company has been running for almost a decade now. Soon after having their first child and realizing the problems with the admissions process in schools in America, they started their second company called Schoolmint to make this process digital. Both these companies have been running successfully and they have crossed the decade mark. Welcome to the show, Forum and Jinal. What are you guys going to teach us today?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, super excited about it. And before I jump in, I just warning you, I have my chai in my hand, and that's part of the Gujarati gene that keeps me going. So I'm gonna keep sipping that. So today we'll talk about, from our experience of first why we started the company, why we wanted to run our own business, and then how did we find our first set of customers who are actually paying customers as we start building those businesses. So that's going to be the topic from us, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today.
Great. So why did you start LogN, and how do you get your first paying customer?
Cool. So I'll go first, and obviously, please feel free to chime in. So as you described, I'm an engineer by training, but even before that, I grew up in a business, Gujarati family. For folks who don't know, my last name means jeweler, and I always saw my dad and my grandfather running their own show, and so I love their lifestyle. They'll get up at 6 or 7 in the morning, get the breakfast, and then the business will start in the home that we lived in. There was one floor dedicated to that. They'll do the thing. They'll talk to the clients. They'll talk to the people who were helping us make jewelry. They'll have their own afternoon break, and then they'll start the work again in the evening. So it was more like the work and life were pretty well integrated. And I was always amazed with that lifestyle. And so when I decided to join engineering, I started working at a couple of places. I still had that DNA in my mind, which is I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to work for myself. And I did not want to limit myself to just doing engineering. I wanted to learn every single aspect of running your own business. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that when I was doing a job. I didn't get to see what other departments were doing. Even though what they were doing was affecting my job and my team, I never had a say in a lot of that. So there was something missing, and that's part of the reason why we decided to start our first company, LogN. And I'm happy to talk more about that and how Forum and I came together on that.
Yeah, and if I can kind of add my perspective to it, I have a similar background. I also come from a business family in Baroda. My dad had a business making cable drawing machinery, and my mom is a lawyer. So the job gene is not very well developed in me either. I worked for PwC for about 5 years, and I learned a lot about like consulting and what it takes to be successful even when delivering projects for different companies. And right around that time, we had our first child. And with my previous company, I was traveling, 4 days a week for months on end, and I wanted a different lifestyle. I wanted, something where I can do something meaningful, but not have to travel every week. And so that's kind of right around the time when we started our first company. it's funny that we started with the goal of kind of, slowing down a little and being able to spend time with her child. It had exactly the opposite effect, where we ended up working, 16-hour days building our other baby. But it was an interesting ride.
You all were in this phase of having your first child, and of course, it's not the right time to leave your jobs. And I don't think you guys actually left your jobs before starting LogN. Was that a thought out decision that you wanted to start the company first and then see where it goes?
So Forum left her job, and so she technically was 100% in the business even before I left my job and joined. That helped a little bit just to get to a comfort zone for, I would say, like a year or so.
Yeah.
Where I was 6 months to a year or so, where I was still working for someone. I still remember using their offices to actually meet my customers and build up the business. So that was an interesting time, but yeah, that's that gave us some cushion. And then at some point it was natural. The business was doing so well, it was growing so quickly, and we thought at some point it was a no-brainer to leave my job and then join Forum full-time in the business.
Right. So how did you get your first customer?
So as you described, our first business was a consulting business, and what we did was we helped other businesses build products, and that was our expertise. And as we were thinking about, a couple of my managers that I reported to in my previous jobs, they were looking for someone to help out on some of those products that they wanted to build. And so they asked me like, hey, do you want to join us full-time? I'm like, no, I don't want to join full-time, but I could work together with my co-founder, and we could help you build the software and the product that you're looking to build. So technically, some of the folks that I already worked with and had established a strong repo with, they were my first set of customers. And that actually happened for a few of my managers that I had reported to. Slowly, all of them came to me, and then as they knew about consulting work that we were doing, and they trusted me because I already worked for them, and they knew my work ethics and such. So that helped us get those customers. And it worked out well because I was an engineer, and my expertise was in building and then more on the technical side, while Forum, and then she can talk more about it, she brought in the expertise of getting the requirements from these customers and really making these projects successful. As most of you know, most of the IT projects fail because of either out of scope, like scope creep, delays, and things like that. And so she brought her magic on understanding the requirements and making sure that we are delivering these projects to our customers on time.
Yep, and to add to that, yes, definitely my previous job taught me kind of how to run successful projects. But one of the other key things which we still base our business on is relationships. And we really focused on like making sure that we're always finding a win-win situation for where we're able to grow our business and we're able to make money and make a profit and run our family, run our household, but at the same time, making it a good deal and a good product for our customers. So that was always at the core of the business, and it still is.
You saw that there was a need, that there was something they needed, and you could provide that. So how did you negotiate? Like, how did you come up with your first payment options, or because it was your first client? So how did that go about?
Yeah, so that's a fun process. Most of the estimates you do are severely in IT or tech. It's very easy to super or underestimate the projects, and so we gave up. I think I still remember my first project. We said it's going to take like 15 days or 20 days, and we were going to charge like $6,500. We got some requirements in place, and we got going at that, and it turned out to be like a 2.5, 3 month project, and we still got paid $6,500 for that. So we learned our lessons very quickly that we will have to spend significant amount of time understanding the requirements, estimating them well, so that we are not paying out of the pocket and we are actually making money on those projects.
So how do you suggest, say, for example, Atit, Jaini, or I, we want to start off our own business, consulting business, with our existing employers or previous employers. So what are the specific steps that you would suggest we take? I mean,
Yes.
with regards to with regards to finding work, and with regards to charging the employer, because like you said, I mean, we can vastly underestimate the job to be done.
Yeah. So first, most companies, right, especially most mid-sized to big companies, have some sort of budget for an ongoing team, but then they always have this demand for a new project or a side project where they don't have existing staff that they can pull. So those are some of the good targets for consulting project. Look for opportunities like that in your own company, and talk to the manager, what is the dev manager, product manager, whoever is responsible for that, and see if there's an opportunity to carve out like a contract or a separate consulting project out of that. Obviously, there's a lot of precursor to that. You need to have a good relationship, and they need to trust you that you will be able to execute on this. So once you do that, try to understand the requirements. Try to really understand what's gonna help them succeed in terms of a deliverable. And then there are various ways where you can look at, okay, what's the hourly rate, the market rate, and then apply that towards the estimate for the project. You'll be still wrong. I mean, I can tell you right now, but at least you'll learn whether you're wrong by like 100% or 300%. And then the key thing about that is you are looking to get your feet wet into that, but you're also looking to make your customer successful, because eventually if you make them successful, you will get a lot of projects, and in those projects you will end up making a lot more money.
And do you recommend reaching out to our existing employers, because that, I mean, they'll be like, oh, why don't you do your job?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation, right? Ideally, if you tell them that, hey, I'm going to do the work, but then they're like, okay, why don't you just use that time towards your core work? And so the best thing is go to someone that you've worked in the past. It's a little bit easier sale. In terms of your existing customer, I think you're not just doing a 9-to-5 job for them. And so if you give them a signal that, okay, you're going to do a side project, it doesn't fare well with them. And so I would say, like, try to, and this doesn't need to be your previous employer. This could be anyone, right? This could be a friend working at a different big tech company, and they're looking to get some help on building something from scratch, or outsourcing something to a consultant. Anything else you would add to this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's right on. I think it's kind of risky, especially if you like your job a lot. I think it's kind of risky to broach that subject. Now, one way to approach it might be that, you know, if you're seeing that your company is growing, that you know, the company where you're working is growing fast and has a lot of demand, then maybe one way to kind of position that is saying that, hey, like, you know, talk to your manager and tell them, hey, right now, like, I am doing the work of one engineer. Instead, why don't I quit and I have a team of 10 other engineers and I'll manage them. Like, I know exactly how, you know, how this company works, and like what kind of stuff you need, like what makes you more successful. And instead of doing the job of one engineer, I can manage 10 and I can kind of bring them on board. So that could be an interesting way of looking at it.
That's a great point. A lot of companies like Cisco, where you will see that a lot of M&A or a lot of companies that they have purchased were started by their previous employees. And so it's a very proven model where employee identifies a problem that the company has, leaves the company, works with company like Cisco in understanding the requirements, build it as a separate team, and then Cisco will come and buy them after a few years. So it's a very proven model, and I have seen a lot of success with that.
So one more question. Y'all are husband and wife. Generally, people talk about co-founding, like founding your company with your best friend or with somebody you've worked with in the past, or somebody with complementary skill sets, but nobody talks about founding a company with their life partner. So how, I mean, clearly it has worked out very well for you guys. So any tips for uh, people like Jaini and me to start companies with each other?
I can take that. So I think there's two very good kind of sayings that I can use to describe this. One is that we have all our eggs in one basket. So like we know that if this is not successful, we will not be able to feed our children. So it means that we do whatever it takes to make it successful, and we don't give up until it is. So I think that is one very important aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is in Gujarati, and I think I can talk in Gujarati as some of your viewers might understand, but it is like ghee dhodayu to khichdi ma, which means that because we own the entire company, we take back all the profit just like we assume all the risk. But I think that's definitely two big things about working together. And I think personally for myself, as a woman entrepreneur, I think it's great because there's been times when I have forgotten that we have kids and we have to feed them, and I've worked like all night and all morning, and I feel like if I had a partner that was not also going through the exact same thing and understanding exactly what it takes, it might be difficult. So I feel like it's I'm fortunate to work with him, and someone who kind of really understand why I'm spending all this time and why it's important. And
yeah, no, that's I think you covered a big chunk of it. I think one other key point is different types of expertise. And so I think Forum and I, we have even though we're both engineers, we have very different skill sets in terms of everything that is required to run the business: sales, marketing, operations, people relationships, internal relationships, communications, and things like that. And so because we have very different skill sets, we try not to step on each other's toe. And I think that helps us also. There's a solid level of understanding, because we know that at the end of the day, if we succeed, then we're going to both succeed. And it's going to be a lot bigger success than if we were to just do it individually. The other thing is because we have been married for so long, one of the things a lot of entrepreneurs do is they're not honest with themselves about what things are working and what things are not. But because we have been together for a long time, it's tough to bullshit to each other, right? And that allows us to just be honest with ourselves and really understand, okay, what's broken and what's not, so that instead of just ignoring it as or just lying to yourselves, we are actually working together on fixing it. So that's another key important point that we feel like it actually helps being husband and wife.
Have you ever taken venture capital money? And what is your opinion? Should young entrepreneurs should they take their money and use their network of the VC, or should they avoid that?
Okay. Yeah. So just for full disclosure, I'm also a part-time venture partner at a VC firm. So obviously take it with a grain of salt. But I think it's a great question. Not every business is meant to fit into the venture mold. There are businesses, and Gujaratis are known for that. You literally don't take any external money and you just keep growing it and make it as profitable as you can be. But there are businesses that can be extremely high growth if right amount of money is poured into those business and if right amount of distribution channels are out there, which they can use to grow. So venture is an asset class like other asset classes that are out there. Debt is another asset class. Private equity is another asset class. So yes, if your business fits into that mold of extremely high growth, but also requires a lot of external money to get to that growth, then I would say take it. Otherwise, there are a lot of other ways to still run a very successful business. And that's like one of our business, our main consulting business is fully bootstrapped and profitable from early on. We did not take any external money. And then Schoolmen is actually a venture-backed business because we saw an opportunity to take external money and then get to the hyper growth that was required to grow the business quickly.
Right. So what's the most Gujarati thing about each of you?
Go first.
I can go first. So I feel like Gujaratis come from a business world, and so I feel like the most Gujarati thing about me from a business perspective is eye on the end goal, which is to make profit. I think it's especially important here because we live in the Silicon Valley, in a place where revenue is really important and growth is really important and number of users are really important. But being Gujarati, I feel like none of that is important unless you can actually make money from your business and or have a clear path for how to go there. So in starting both our businesses, both Jinal and I always had that in mind in terms of keeping costs low, in terms of pricing such that we are able to get to that profitability stage. And so I think that's kind of where my Guju comes in.
Yeah. On my side, I think that's something I learned from my family too, is that don't treat customers just as yet another customer. I think go above and beyond in building that relationship because they will end up becoming your sales team. They will help you grow. They will help you be successful. They will help you bring a lot of other customers. And so I saw always my grandfather would have like a very deep relationship with his customers, and that kind of trickles down into me where every time we have a customer coming on board, we try to build a relationship with them. We try to really understand the problems and see how we can make them successful. And there will be a lot of times where we would help them out, even though it has nothing to do with our business. So I think go above and beyond in the relationship with customers because they will help you out in turn. So that is something that I got from my Gujarati ancestry.
Thank you guys for coming and sharing your lessons with us. It was great to have you here.
Thanks so much, guys.
Likewise. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to the show this week. And if you want to ask us any questions or want to see someone specific on our show, write to us at dollargujarati@gmail.com. You can also tweet to us at dollargujarati. Make sure you don't miss any episode by subscribing to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, or however it is that you get your podcast. I'm Dakshaday Shah, and you've been listening to Dollar Gujarati.